Ever feel like you just don't have enough time to get everything done? This is me every spring, guys. I'm Cindy from Part-Time Permies. If you're new to this channel, welcome. If you've been around, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to do a little garden tour. I'll show you around what we have so far. Our average last frost date is not until mid-May, like May 13th or so. Sometimes we have warm years, sometimes like a couple years ago, our last frost was the end of May. So we do have to really watch the temperatures this time of year and can't get ahead of ourselves here. Today it's in the 50s. We're supposed to rain this afternoon, although we seem to be kind of on the edge of the rain. So hopefully I can get some stuff done out here before the rain hits us. And we're supposed to rain all weekend, which is a good thing, but bad timing for me. Let me walk you around the garden and I will show you what's in here so far. This section of the garden is almost all planted. That bed is needing to be harvested and weeded out, but I'm going to hold off on that right now. So we have nice beds planted here. We've been pulling from a pile that we made over there. That was chicken compost. It had been composting all last year. It was the winter material from not this last winter, but the winter before. We pulled this out last fall and put it in a pile here. And I've been using that to spread on my beds here. Now this one obviously needs a bit of weeding. It has some baby kales in there. I got to pull some of those grasses out. Prioritize and execute, as Jocko Willink would say. Figure out which things are the most important and get those done when you're limited on time. Mainly red Russian kale. I think we have some lacinato in that bed. This bed was actually the first bed we did, and it was direct seeded at the very last weekend of February. Nothing's really started much, but just recently things have started. Now I think we have had some rain washout issues because I believe we have arugula, we have radishes are supposed to be in the center. Maybe we got some going. I got to get some of those grasses out again, but we'll see about that. We're supposed to have some spinach coming up. I haven't seen that too much in my bed, but some of these things here are starting. They are all cold weather plants. So we have mustard greens, we have lettuces. You can see a few coming up here. These were direct sown, like I said, last week of February. So we're talking about 2 months ago now. But it was too cold at that point. We had some warm days, but some cold days. So these are all starting to come out now, which is kind of nice because I don't have to do it now. So we'll see what survived our back and forth weather and what will actually germinate. But these are all pretty much cold weather crops. This bed is actually a 6-year-old hugel bed. I put a bunch of brassicas in here. I put another layer of chicken compost on top and then planted into that. So we do have, I don't know if you can see that over there, we do have some, I think it's cauliflower and broccoli. It looks like we've lost some, but I still see some growing in here. So we'll see how they do. We do have cabbage here. Over here, we have some lavender. There's some more cabbage back there. So mainly cabbage in this bed. A couple of my perennial herbs coming back. I do actually have some spearmint over there, so that might take over once it pops out. And we'll see what happens with this bed. It's the first time I've actually planted brassicas on the hugel mound. And that hugel mound has definitely sunk down quite a bit over the years. We're going to ignore this bed right now. It was the bed that had plastic over it all winter, so it had mainly kale in here, but it had some other brassicas in here as well and some beets. We've harvested most of it, but we got to come back to that and obviously take care of the weeds that have taken over. This is my garlic bed, and in between the garlics, I also co-planted some lettuces and cabbages. So idea being, especially the lettuces don't take up much room between these. But my cabbage will maybe outgrow things and we'll see how they do. It's an experiment. Here's the lettuces. Okay, these are the ones I planted last fall, so they are doing awesome. These are the garlics I planted in early spring, so we'll see how they do. I have a feeling just from research that they're just going to have one big clove instead of multiple cloves because of when we planted them. But they are growing. And cabbage over here. I put the little ovules from my garlic into this section, and I haven't seen too much come up. Maybe a little wispy. I think that might be a spring onion. We got a couple little wispies. We'll see. There's a few of them in here. Maybe they'll come up. But yeah, in the meantime, I planted cabbage and lettuce. Now this bed does not have a net on it right now because I only have the 2 nets. So I'm going to have to get another net pretty darn soon to cover this to keep the cabbage moths off my cabbage, because they definitely like all the brassicas. Now the garlic may deter some of that. So that is hopeful thinking there. Our compost workstation here. I have another workstation over here I brought a bunch of stuff into. So I have some leeks and some onions and stuff to go in the ground, some chard to go in the ground. The chard and the spinach I planted, and actually all these I planted from paper towel bagging method, but my spinach did not like the transplant. So again, those were molding too, so they weren't really doing that great. So that may have been part of that issue. But the alliums did all right. I did overwater some of them, so I guess these purpleette ones did not like the overwatering. The bunching onions, you could go straight into the ground, so you don't really need to do that here. And the yellow Utah onions may have been overwatered somewhat, but I do still have some. Over there, we mainly have our leeks and shallots, and they seem to be doing okay for the most part. You got to watch these guys. I have not been great with my alliums and keeping the right water levels because they are prone to rotting. So, lesson learned. We'll try again next year. See how we do. We might buy some sets if we don't have enough here. But onions are also a fairly cheap product in the store. As far as things to prioritize to put into the garden and grow and have space for, onions might not be on the top of my list. But I like to challenge myself. So I do like to grow as much as we can. Okay, Bella's bed. We still got to fix it, but we planted it anyway. And again, this was planted in last weekend in February. Same thing. And here we definitely have arugula that's starting to pop up. We do have bunching onions that are starting to pop up here. I got to figure out what some of these things are. I'm not sure what this is. We might have to do a picture of this and figure that one out. And we got some plantain that's self-sowed, and mullein. We definitely left the mullein in the ground here on purpose. We do have supposedly a row of radishes and spinach. And again, I'm seeing limited things going on there. I did sprinkle some herbs through here as well. Turnips and rutabaga. Let's see. There may be a few poking up over here, but again, it's just starting. Even though we planted this 2 months ago, it's just too cold. The cold weather plants. Let's see what comes up. We also started peas 2 months ago, which is way too early. But I'll show you. We weren't extremely successful, but we do have a couple little pea plants here. One growing up right here. And I think we have another one growing down here. So I'm probably going to add to our pea plants today. So I am soaking some peas. That's another thing I'm not great with, is planning to soak overnight before bringing things out if they do better that way. And peas are one of those that do better if they're soaked overnight. Now, I started soaking this morning, so I'll get a couple hours of soak. But like I said, we're expecting rain. So they'll be soaking all weekend in the ground. So I'm hoping that'll help them out. We have a couple other beds that we need to prep out today. I have not done anything on this bed here. This, I'm planning on expanding my compost system to move down. I might have to turn that compost into the next spot and so forth. Not doing that today, but we won't cultivate anything there this year. This was another overwintered section that had mustard greens and arugula and stuff. So the arugula is flowering right now. We're leaving that alone for the moment. I do have some perennials that are planted along the fence line over there. You can see the purple dead nettle has gone nuts over there, which is fine with me. We can actually harvest some of that. The bumblebees love that this time of year. It's one of the first things they can get their nectar from. Strawberry bed did not get mulched last year, so we have a bunch of grass growing in it, but we also have a bunch of strawberry plants. And these are wild strawberries that we transplanted here, so they seem to be doing well. We also seem to have some, I think that's yarrow that volunteered itself, so might have a yarrow strawberry bed. We definitely have bittercress over here that's flowering. Let me see if I can show you. These little flowers Bella loves to eat. So she'll pick those and just chomp on them, but they're about done. It's going to get too hot for the bittercress soon, but most people call it a weed. It really doesn't bother me. It's edible. Down here, we have not done anything yet. Okay, so this is where I want to focus on building out some beds with these trellises here. And we're going to build some beds going down on both sides of this. We'll see how far we get before the rain. We do have some nice wild edibles that are growing in here as well. Might harvest some of these guys, the violets. We'll see about that. Ooh, I found something. Look here. Let me test it. You know what that is? That is lemon balm. Yeah, we're going to let that come back. That does like to volunteer itself in my garden. That's awesome. And I know I have a few plants that pop up down this area. That is a great tea. Also helps you sleep, so great nighttime tea. So I might take some, let that grow up a little bit more, and then harvest some and dry it out. Lots of fun stuff that is volunteering. Oh, look, we have a dock. That's bitter dock. And a whole lot of milkweed, I'm sure is going to pop back because look how many pods we have here. But what I'm going to do, oh, this is beautiful. I love my wildflowers. What I'm going to do is close to the fence line, I will probably suppress these weeds. A lot of chickweed in here too. Another edible. Oh my goodness. These are the stalks of my Monarda from last year. So that's all coming back right there. Another thing you can use in tea. I left the stalks because a lot of our beneficial insects actually will live inside the hollow stalks. So we leave those over winter. Same with these guys. Those are all milkweed. Left those over winter, but we could probably push some over now to get our beds prepped. A nice benefit of having a husband with a pasta business is he's running through flower bags like crazy. So we're going to use some of that in our pathways, maybe on our beds before adding, because at this point in the year, the weeds are going nuts. So we might put that in our beds before adding some of the compost to it. Huh. That might be more Monarda, I think. Anything else fun in here? Monarda or bee balm. Violets. Bittercress. Ooh, this is fun. This will probably stay. This is evening primrose. I think these are first year plants. So that will stay here. This is our blueberry, which hasn't really taken off yet. I'm going to have to definitely weed around that. Maybe get some wood chips around this to help it. We have another one over here. More Monarda there. And I know over in this corner, we have some fun things too. This section here where we dumped our wood chips was all evening primrose last year. Kind of got into our pathways a little bit. We do have some here, and I'm expecting, yeah, that we'd probably have some new plants growing up in here. So that'll be good. That's another one you could turn into tea or infuse. There's a lot of stuff you can do with that, but definitely going to harvest some of that. I'm kind of missed my window for harvesting the root. So that you kind of want to do between the first year and second year of their growth, because they put all their energy into their roots for the winter time. So either late fall or early spring, you want to harvest roots. And then with the new growth, you can harvest the leaves or flowers or seeds as time goes. I think I kind of want to take this trellis out. It's right by my pine tree. It does not do well. It actually would probably do better to have my blueberries over here. They like the acidic soil from the pine. And it's actually not from the pine needles. It's from the mycelium, the mushroom growth under the ground that help out the pine trees that create the acidity. So this definitely is the most acidic part of the garden. And you know what's growing over here? Motherwort. I don't use that one so much, but it can be used medicinally. And of course, we have more violets. So motherwort might have to go. I've tried pulling it a bit last year, but you can see how much is coming back. Yeah, and dead nettle and bittercress. Oh my goodness. Obviously, we have a lot of work to do in this garden. Who knows if we're going to keep up? Probably not. But that's me. Me working full-time, having a 3-year-old, husband having his own business that works, you know, when you own your own business, you work more than full-time. So we get to this when we can. Thanks for watching. I will see you with the next video.